So right now is the evening of our first day with the Canon EOS R and the 50mm 1.2 RF lens, which we're going to be reviewing in this video. Right now we're shooting an Acrobat in the background, which Canon Australia have set up for us to shoot and test it in low light. And if you're still wondering why my face is super round and looks like a soccer ball, it's because I got 4 wisdom teeth removed and I'm still swollen, even after that video. Anyway, let's jump into the review. So just my first impressions on the Canon 50mm RF 1.2. So firstly, holding it, it feels really solid. It does have a 77mm filter thread and is quite wide. So carrying this around, it is pretty big, but it's not as heavy as I expected it to be despite its size, weighing at just under a kilogram. In terms of video usage, if you are a heavy user of the manual focus ring, as you would know, most of the RF lenses are focused by wire. So the feeling of the ring was actually a lot better than I thought it'd be. It's got a bit of resistance to it, but it's not too sticky and it's not too light either. And if you are going to be using it for video and there is a certain sensitivity that you like when shooting other lenses, inside the actual body, you can choose the sensitivity of how responsive you want the manual focus ring to be, and that can help you out there. On the left-hand side of the lens, you've got an autofocus manual focus switch, as well as a focus limiter, which allows you to use the full range of the lens or from 80 centimeters minimum focus distance. And most importantly, as you would know with any L series Canon lens, it's constructed to be a beast. So it's weather sealed and feels really solid. Lastly, it has the signature control ring that's on most of the new RF lenses, which gives you full programmability and function controls from this little thing. So now just going to run over the key features of the Canon RF 50mm 1.2L. So first off, it's got a aperture range of f1.2 to f16 with a rounded 10 blade aperture diaphragm for really smooth and soft, nice looking bokeh. In terms of its construction, it's constructed with 15 elements and 9 groups, with 1 ultra low dispersion element and 1 spherical element to help with chromatic aberrations, color fringing, and overall sharpness and clarity. As you will know with most Canon EF lenses, it boasts a ultrasonic motor inbuilt, so meaning you're going to get really nice and quick, quiet autofocus performance. And as I mentioned before, the lens is constructed to be dust, moisture, and weather resistant. So today is our last day at our Jervis Bay farm trip with the EOS R, and I've used the 50mm for, I would say, about 10 hours now, and a couple of things on its performance. So first off, with its actual autofocus performance, it's really quick, and at most times it is quite accurate. I find with some of my shots that I've shot, I have back focused a lot with my photos, and I'm not too sure whether it's the camera or whether because I'm shooting it quite wide, because most of the time I've noticed the back focusing is when I'm shooting at f1.2, 1.4, 1.8. And I feel in this lens, the depth of field is shallower than what I'm normally used to on a Canon 5D Mark IV with a 50mm. Or, you know, I'm just a bad photographer. That's probably the right answer. In terms of its ability to control with color fringing, flaring, and any aberrations, this lens is basically near perfect. I don't notice any distortions at the back of camera, any little blemishes or anything that makes an image look basically unusable. I pointed it at direct sunlight and it works pretty well. Optically wise, this lens seems brilliant. Keen to have a look at it further when we punch up our sample images later on, but from what I can see now using it, this lens is definitely one of their best prime lenses that they've put out in a long time. Today's sample images were shot on a Canon EOS R with the 50mm 1.2 RF lens. This is truly one of Canon's best lenses that they've put out to date. Even when open wide optically, the 50mm is sharp from center to the edge of the frame. It handles distortions well and any form of aberration. Bokeh in this lens is insane and looks beautiful. The results from this leads us to believe that this could be Canon's sharpest ever 50mm lens and has become one of our favorite lenses ever. Oh, when you stop down on this lens, it honestly makes such a big difference in terms of sharpness. It's actually crazy how sharp these images are looking at like f2.8. It's ridiculous. So just a few things I'm a bit iffy about the Canon 50mm 1.2 RF. So first off, it is physically big. Although it doesn't weigh too much, it won't be that straining to use for a long period of time. If you're going to be carrying this around on a day trip, you're going to need a pretty big bag for it if you're going to fit your other RF and EF lenses, as well as it is fat. Secondly, the price tag. With the previous Canon EF 50mm 1.2, it costed less than about 2K. This one costs over $3,092 Australian. So the price tag on this is definitely a lot higher than its previous model. And one thing I would want to see in probably the previous iteration, and I really thought would be in the next generation of prime lenses, because the EOS R doesn't have in-body image stabilization, I would have assumed that most of the RF lenses would have image stabilization like their new prime lenses in the Canon range, such as the 35mm 1.4 and the 85mm 1.4, but this 50mm 1.2 does not have image stabilization. So it kind of limits your use in terms of low light usage at times. And I guess for video users as well, it's going to be a lot harder to justify this lens, as you're basically going handheld without any assistance unless you're going to be using a gimbal. So my final thoughts on the Canon RF 50mm 1.2 lens. Although with those points I just mentioned, the Canon 50mm 1.2 RF lens is brilliant. It looks amazing. It feels good in your hand. The images that come out of it are unreal. They're super sharp. The bokeh looks amazing. And this is honestly one of my favorite Canon lenses that have been put out for a very long time, since the 35mm 1.4L that came out probably about 2 years ago. The look that you get out of this lens is absolutely fantastic, and the sharpness, especially when open wide. We found that if you shoot anywhere between 1.8 to 2.8, it looks absolutely crisp, and that is something that a lot of 50mm don't really have in terms of that sharpness factor, apart from the Sigma Art 50mm 1.4 that got released a while back. This is just an absolute phenomenal lens, and I can't really fault it much apart from that. And it's definitely a must-have 50mm if you're going to be investing in the RF system. If you have any questions on the Canon 50mm 1.2 RF lens, pop them in the comments below. Links to our Facebook, Instagram, and our blog are in our description below to keep up to date with all our latest events and what's going on in store. And finally, as always, if you enjoyed our video, make sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next updates, as we upload videos every Tuesday and Thursday.